What if I told you that one signature in Washington just detonated the closest alliance in the Western world? 1 minute ago, the unthinkable happened. This was not a trade spat, not a policy tweak. This was economic war. And the response from Ottawa? Cold, calculated, surgical. Stay with me because what I'm about to show you changes everything you thought you knew about power in North America. Late last night, Donald Trump signed an executive order slapping sweeping tariffs on Canadian steel, aluminum, auto parts, and energy inputs. But that wasn't the real bombshell. The real shock came in the language buried deep inside the document. He labeled Canada a national security risk. Read that again. Canada, the country that has fought beside America for over a century, the country that shares the longest undefended border on Earth, suddenly framed as a threat. But here's where the story gets even stranger. Washington insiders expected outrage. They expected emergency calls. They expected Canada to fold. Instead, Ottawa went silent. No press conference, no angry tweets, no leaks. 3 days of silence. And in global politics, silence is never empty. While cable news panels were shouting, Mark Carney was moving in the shadows. Private calls, closed-door meetings, secure lines lighting up across Brussels, Tokyo, and London. The White House thought it was winning. That was the mistake. At dawn, before markets opened, Carney stepped in front of cameras in Europe, not Ottawa. That location was not random. It was strategic. He stood beside European leaders and delivered 3 announcements that hit Washington like a freight train. Announcement 1. A rapid economic alignment between Canada and the European Union. Fast-tracked market access, shared regulatory recognition, streamlined customs. This was not symbolic. It was operational. The math simply doesn't add up for Washington anymore. If American markets close, Canadian goods now have another massive door open. Energy, agriculture, manufacturing, all redirected if needed. And the markets reacted instantly. Currency swings, energy futures jumping, investors moving money before most Americans had their morning coffee. But that was only the first receipt. Announcement 2 was the real smoking gun. Canada is accelerating Pacific energy exports. New agreements with Japan and South Korea. Infrastructure fast-tracked. Ports expanded. Pipelines prioritized under emergency authority. Think about what that means. For decades, U.S. refineries were built around Canadian heavy crude. It flows south like clockwork. It keeps Midwest energy stable. It keeps prices predictable. Carney didn't shut off the flow. He proved he could. And that threat alone rattled Wall Street. Refinery stocks dipped. Analysts started whispering about supply risk. That is code. Code for panic. But here's the part no one saw coming. Announcement 3. A digital alliance. Canada aligning tech standards with Europe, the UK, Japan, and Australia. Shared AI rules, shared data systems, shared digital frameworks. And guess who was not invited? The United States. That exclusion was not an accident. It was a message. For 80 years, America has set the rules of global trade and technology. Now 5 advanced economies just built a parallel track. If those standards lock in without U.S. input, American companies face higher costs. Split compliance, market friction. This is not a tariff dispute anymore. It is structural. And here's the part the mainstream media is barely touching. This is about credibility. When you call your closest ally a threat, you send a signal to the world. If Canada can be targeted, anyone can. Allies watch that. They calculate. But here's where it gets even deeper. Carney is not a career politician in the traditional sense. He ran central banks. He understands global finance. He thinks in networks, not headlines. Trump plays transactions. You hit me, I hit back. Carney plays systems. If one route closes, build 3 new ones. That is why this response feels cold-blooded. It was prepared. The groundwork likely laid months ago. Trade frameworks drafted quietly. Energy talks advanced before the cameras ever turned on. This was not panic. It was strategy. And timing is everything. With global supply chains already strained, with inflation still fresh in voters' minds, with markets sensitive to shock, this move lands at a fragile moment. Investors hate uncertainty, and right now, uncertainty is the only certainty. Inside Washington, advisors are reportedly split. Some want escalation, broader sanctions, financial pressure, go nuclear. Others warn this could spiral, hurt American manufacturing, raise energy costs, damage retirement accounts. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. The US and Canada are deeply intertwined. Auto parts cross the border multiple times before a car is finished. Energy flows back and forth daily. Farmers rely on integrated systems. You cannot rip that apart without consequences. And that's why this feels different. This isn't theater. This is leverage. Carney's move sends a clear message. Canada has options. It can pivot. It can align elsewhere. It can diversify. And once diversification begins, it rarely reverses fully. Even if tensions cool tomorrow, the trust gap remains. That's the long game. But here's the question nobody is asking loudly enough. Was this the goal? Is this about short-term political optics? Or is it about reshaping alliances before the next election cycle? Because economic pressure can rally bases. It can frame strength. It can shift narratives. But markets do not vote. They react. And they reacted. Volatility spiked. Analysts scrambled. Corporations began scenario planning. When corporations start planning around bypassing the U.S. supply chain, that is not a headline. That is a structural shift. But let's not pretend Canada is risk-free here. Redirecting energy takes time. Building infrastructure costs billions. New alliances come with compromise. Carney is gambling too. He is betting that global partners prefer stability over confrontation. He is betting that markets reward calm strategy over loud escalation. And so far, the initial signals suggest he may not be wrong. But here's the chilling part. If this escalates, it does not stay between two countries. Europe is involved. Asia is involved. Tech standards are involved. Energy markets are involved. The ripple effect touches your gas bill, your grocery prices, your pension fund. This is why the word war is being whispered. Not military war, economic war. And economic wars can last longer. So where does this end? One path leads to negotiation. Quiet back-channel talks, a face-saving compromise, public toughness, private cooling. The other path leads to blocks, competing alliances, trade walls, fragmented systems. History tells us once fragmentation begins, it rarely snaps back overnight. Here's the final piece of the puzzle. Power in the 21st century is not just about size. It is about connection, networks, alliances. If America pushes too many allies at once, those allies may connect around it. And that possibility is what truly stunned the world this morning. Because for the first time in decades, the assumption of automatic American centrality is being tested. And Mark Carney just forced that test. So now the ball is in Washington's court. Escalate and risk deeper fractures, or recalibrate and preserve the architecture that is held for generations. Either way, the relationship between these two nations will never look the same again. The signature has dried, the alliances are shifting, the markets are watching, and the next move could define the decade. Don't look away.